Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for the very first episode of My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 1. It's back, people. The anime of My Hero Academia is back, and it couldn't have come back to an arguably extremely good, but definitely problematic episode. But we'll get into that when it problematic season. But we'll get into that when it gets to that part. But yeah, it's the anime's back, guys, and in terms of the lateness of this review, I'm so sorry on that. I've already said my piece on it. It was Thanksgiving today, and but from after today, after today, you're going to see the reviews come out at a much more reasonable time. I'm going to guarantee you of that. Like, this was just this was just one of those times where pretty much timing was not on my side at all. I was busy. I was busy the past couple of days, all the way leading up to today, in order to prepare for Thanksgiving dinner. But I'm here now, and let's talk about the episode. All right, so to start off, pretty much seeing as how this is a new season, we got a new opening, and the opening in itself is definitely something different. Because in previous openings, most were pretty much focused on building up the excitement and the hype of what we should expect from the season, and while that definitely is the case here, I feel it's something more important. I feel something more important this opening accomplished is setting up a narrative and selling us on the narrative of the series going forward. Mainly how pretty much through the encroaching villainy, through pretty much the encroaching villainy that's beginning to sprout up after All Might and basically All For One had fought. Like, heroism hasn't died either. Heroism is continuing to in order to shine a light of hope through this darkness that has been cast by that final fight of All Might and All For One. And the ones to carry that torch are the new generation of heroes, and I like how it carried that vibe, even in the smallest of details, like pretty much the music and again the visuals themselves. They are the ones who were telling this story, and I just love. This is one of those rare times where this is one of those rare times in an opening where it really does tell. It really does tell a story. I mean, obviously there are spoilers even when doing that. Obviously, there are spoilers when doing that, but with this, it pretty much tells the opening in itself. It just tells a great story of the next generation, like taking up the mantle of hero now. So yeah, just in that alone, I think the opening was great. And in what's become a tradition for the My Hero Academia anime, the first episode was a recap episode. However, based on a couple different storytelling factors, I'd argue here and now that this is probably the best recap. This is the best among pretty much all the recap episodes, just purely on the fact that the focus was strictly on the average everyday life of Class 1A. And I know previous recap episodes in other seasons has done this as well, but the key here, the key in that very sentence I just said, is average everyday life. Because in most other cases of those other recap episodes, the quirks and superpower elements still manage to work their way into the plot, but majority of this episode's plot it pretty much strictly focused on just Class 1A being average students, being average people, which I really liked, because honestly from the brief moments I've had over the past couple of years of reading the manga, the one real strength the one thing I've always believed to be the real strength of this series is basically when we get to see underneath all the super abilities and quirks and when we get to see the moments that pretty much show that the characters underneath all that are still average, everyday humans, like they're human. Average, everyday people. In those moments, it pretty much shows them that they themselves are still human. I feel that that's the most that's the most powerful element in My Hero Academia. In fact, even when the quirk element was worked back into the story, it felt like it felt even then it felt like the whole quirk thing. It took a bit of a backseat. It took a bit of a backseat to the characters being in that average environment compared to other recaps where at times it did feel like the quirks kind of they just kind of overshadowed the character moments. Like in those other recaps, the characters had their human moments, but there are also times where I feel that the quirks almost kind of got in the way of those moments almost. But yeah, that's just why I love this episode. That's honestly just why I love this episode so much. It just felt the most human of all the recap episodes. Weird enough to say. Yeah, I'm saying a recap episode it gave us the most human representation of the series. Honestly, yeah, I'm probably yeah. Having said that, having said all that, and giving the episode like so much praise already. The fact that this episode was a recap episode does kind of concern me. I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of in terms of going just on the standards of a recap episode, this was definitely the best. But the fact that this episode was a recap kind of concerns me a little bit because it does concern me a little bit because this arc we're headed into is one of the series longest thus far. Is one of the series longest thus far outside of. Is one of the series longest thus far. Maybe only rivaled by the current one in the manga right now. But yeah, with this current arc we're headed into, it basically clocks in at pretty much 40 chapters in the manga, and we do have, and don't get me wrong, even past this episode, we pretty much have 24 more episodes to work with. So I'm sure I'm sure it's one of those situations where Bones knows what they're doing. But at the same time, it's one of those things where I can't help but question if they kind of wasted an episode with this recap and should have just jumped straight in. I mean, I pretty much get it. Every time new episodes start, you do need to kind of catch up with those who only watch the anime. But it's like this pretty much arc is definitely one of the longest. So I almost feel that they should have ditched. This is one time where they should have ditched it and just went pretty much straight into the into the current arc. But like I said, I still have faith in Bones, and I'm sure within the 24 episodes they can still make this work. Although that in itself does raise the question of, I wonder if they're going to even use the full 24 episodes because they managed to make, because yeah, like it should be interesting to see though if this arc is going to use like the full 24 episodes, or if it's going to be like a little less than that. I guess it's just something we're going to have to wait and see. Now, obviously, one curious thing to talk about, aside from the focus on the students, is that we actually get the perspective on how All Might's retirement has affected the media landscape, which, as someone who's worked in broadcasting reporting myself, this episode was actually a pretty decent depiction of the behind the scenes of pretty much how basically how the reporting industry works, and of course, albeit a lot more professional than pretty much the way the episode portrayed it, with that woman who was just salivating over every story, and beyond that, let's just say it's a little, getting real talk here. It's a little more complicated than what the current political climate would tell you. Like the whole behind the scenes of it, it's a little more complicated than what this episode of the current political climate would tell you. But back to how it affects the episode, though. One thing I really liked about about the focus on the media in this episode is it shows for as much as Izuku worries about as much as Izuku worries in terms of keeping the secret of One for All, and the fact that it'll be uncovered by a villain. Like he's basically tried so hard in order to keep the secret, All Might's secret, close to his chest, that they never even once considered that that pretty much the media is probably going to be the more likely culprit that pretty much that will eventually like uncover his secret. Like it's in this world where All Might can or in this world where All Might can't be a hero anymore, it's inevitable that the media would probably at some point end up uncovering like Izuku's secret at some point. It's just a matter of when, I suppose. And that alone just proves how powerful All Might's image and influence still is. Like Izuku is lucky enough that the person who basically found out what happened, who basically found out, happened to be someone who had a genuine belief in what All Might stands for. But if let's just say basically it wasn't. Let's just say the person who uncovered All Might's secret, like Izuku and All Might's secret, wasn't someone like wasn't pretty much someone wasn't someone like pretty much Tanayo. It would have been the worst case scenario in that case, and the media discovering this would eventually lead villains to pretty much targeting both Izuku and All Might at full steam, full stop. So yeah, in this case, the media is kind of the biggest threat of basically pretty much uncovering Izuku and All Might's secret right now. One thing I will say is that pretty much like how one thing I like when it comes to it's pretty much Tanayo as a character and Tanayo's backstory. I also like how Tanayo's backstory also gives a much different perspective, because for the most part, the series has always been about the heroes, the students, and the villains. But with this episode, it shows us just pretty much what the average onlooker thinks when basically watching these heroes save people, and especially if it happens to be a loved one who's being saved. But when we really as the episode went on and we got to know a little bit in terms of Tanayo's character, obviously he's extremely grateful for what All Might had done, and the fact that All Might had saved his father, but Prince Tanayo himself, he appears to be a very fragile person, like a very emotionally fragile person in some respects. So it almost makes you wonder what would have happened had All Might failed to save his father. What would have happened then? It's kind of an interesting question when you look at it. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I have for this review. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.